Good morning. It is an absolutely fabulous day to be a shark, isn't it? All my students here, I want you to show how fabulous it is to be a shark by doing what we normally do. What is that? Fins up. Fins up. Absolutely. I am Preston Jones, and I'm honored to serve you as the Dean of the H. Wayne Huizinga School of Business and Entrepreneurship at the Nova Southeastern University. That was for my friends down the road at the U. We are the in this U. Today we're honored to have quite a few distinguished guests with us, and I'd just like to start by introducing a Hall of Fame member who's here, Tom Miller, class of 2003 honoree. We have a member of the Board of Governors, Sherry Friedlander. Sherry. Entrepreneur Council members, would you please stand to be recognized? I see Scott Roberts, Wayne Stofsky, and Joseph. And this is a rare opportunity for us here because every great university has great leaders. And we're fortunate to have two of the great university leaders here with us today. We're blessed to have Ray Ferreira, Jr. And this is Boss's Day. This is Boss's Day, and I'd like to introduce our boss and our leader, President George Henberg. It's indeed an honor to be here today and to share with you our most recent Hall of Fame inductee, James Donnelly, inducted in 2014. You're going to hear a little bit more about him in a second. But again, on behalf of all of us here at the NSU family, we welcome you today, and you're in for a treat. And so without further ado, what I'd like to do is to play a short video for you that will give you an outstanding background and understanding about our speaker.
So I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and we grew up humbly. So my dad lent me $100. I bought a mower, and that winter I was 13, and now I was an entrepreneur. So my father lent me $350, and I bought a snowblower, and I went and got 7 contracts. It started early.
At 15, James took a job at McDonald's. During this time, he began dating a girl from high school who also worked there. James remained in his fast food job for much of his formative years. However, he had bigger visions for his future.
I was not a great student through high school, and I was a bit of a renegade and got in quite a bit of trouble. Between grade 12 and grade 13, I thought, I better get this thing going.
So James set forth on his focused path and succeeded, ending up with Arthur Andersen, a premier firm. By this time, James had already been exercising that entrepreneurial muscle alongside his younger brother, buying a townhouse and renting it out. Later, they ventured into the franchise business, owning a pizza for several years. James had remained at his accounting job, but not for long.
12 months after being a chartered accountant, I realized it's the last thing I ever wanted to do in my life. And I went and started selling investment real estate, and we worked out of our house. Kathy and I had just got married.
In spite of the stress, James and his colleagues at the time decided to go big.
We were selling for someone else, and then we said we can do this ourselves. So we took our commissions and we went and contracted a piece of Florida real estate in Largo, Florida, an apartment, to convert to condo and sell to Canadians, 1988. And we didn't even have enough money to close, but we sold this thing in time, closed it, and that kind of launched us financially to do everything else. 1992, the Canadian investors asked me, would you manage the real estate?
James agreed and started a management company based in Clearwater, Florida. They also continued buying and converting properties. But in 1994, the Canadian dollar had dropped so severely against the US dollar, the Canadians stopped buying.
Management company going fine, sales not so much. And that's when, ironically, I read Wayne Huizinga's The Making of Blockbuster, and his story of recurring revenue, consolidation. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I have a recurring revenue business. I am going to consolidate this business just like Wayne did. It didn't quite work out as well as Wayne's, but that's where it started. We figured out what we were really good at and what we weren't great at, and the business that we weren't great at, we sold them. So now we're really today truly a property management, a pure property management play. 20 years ago, I had read all the Jim Collins books. Basically, he said the companies that have been successful over a long period of time did two things. One, they had a core that never changed, values, a mission, and two, they stimulated progress at all points in time. So I thought, this is what I'm going to do. So we wrote the Castle Constitution, and to this day, we've changed literally one word in 20 years. I guess that's the end.
As I said earlier, this is a great university, and every great university, I think, is blessed with great leaders. We just had one to join us, President Emeritus, Dr. Abraham Fisher. Thank you. Another great leader that I like to recognize, and she's here for only 1 year, but after 1 year, the impact has been just unbelievably outstanding. Dr. Jennifer Flannery Anderson. And with every great man, there's a great woman. Kathy Donnelly. Thank you for sharing James with us, please. Kathy Donnelly. She still looks the same as she did in the video, doesn't she? Anita DeFrance once said that we need leadership that thinks about the future and encourages us to invest in ourselves in that future. We need leadership that thinks about the future and encourages us to invest ourselves in that future. A leader today, a leader for the future. I give you James Donnelly.
Okay, I'm going to start with a sound check. When I was at the ceremonies for the induction, I got up to the mic and I needed to move it up to my mouth and I pulled it completely apart. Now that's not a good way to start, so can everybody hear me clearly? Because I'm not touching this thing. I want to add my thanks, Dean Jones, thank you very much. Vice Dean Joe, my friend Joe, wherever we go here. President Hanbury, Ray, and the whole leadership of the university is fantastic, and the business school. And nothing ever happens in this place without Jay Chen calling me. So really though, it's all about who's in the audience, and I have some messaging today I hope you enjoy. I think maybe a little different than what you've heard before. But when I saw the invitation, I think I may be in the wrong place, because this is a distinguished lecturer series. 1, I'm not distinguished. 2, I'm not a lecturer. And 3, this will never be a series. So, just to bring you out a little bit from the video to today, it's very embarrassing watching those videos. And Kathy and I have been together since we were 15, in case you didn't notice the age. But in fact now, the CASA Group, I'm still the chairman and CEO, and it's the primary thing, but we spend a lot of our time now, we've invested in 4 startups. We do a lot of philanthropy, led by my wife Kathy, under the CASA Cares department. So we are never been so busy in our life. My father retired from teaching at 54, I'm 53. So I'm like 1 year I'm supposed to be retired, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So when they asked me to speak to everybody today, I said, well, what do you want me to speak about? I said, well, tell us your story. And I said, well, my story's pretty boring. I kind of talk about something else. But James, what else would you like to speak about? I said, well, I'm writing a book, and it's called Life Shaping. Well, James, tell us about that book before we get you up there in front of all these people. I said, well, it's the story of how we came from a humble start to where we are today, which is, to me, an extraordinary life. And so what I'd like to share with you today is that story. But my desire to start writing a book actually was in the early 90s, and I had found my book idea. It was called Happiness and the Expectation Gap. By the way, it never got written. But the concept of this book was that, you know, if it was always dark out, you never experienced light, you wouldn't know what light was. If it was always quiet, you never heard noise, you wouldn't know what noise was. So if you were always happy or unhappy, you needed to have unhappiness in your life to even experience the concept of happiness. So it really gave me a different perspective on the tough times in life. And one of the things the video didn't show fully was that it looks like I went from here to here. It was actually more like this. We had a lot of challenges along the way. But the other part of the book was that happiness is equal exactly to the gap between expectation and reality. If your expectation is here and your reality is here, unhappy. If your expectation is here, reality here, very happy. So my job the next 30 seconds is to lower your expectations as far as possible before I start speaking. So number one, I'm not a professional speaker. Number two, I'm not a lecturer. Number three, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist. Everything you're about to hear is simply my belief, my experience, my reading. And a lot of it's attributed to the authors who I have read. So please don't start doing life-changing tests on based on what I'm about to tell you. But what I am is a student, just like many of the people in the room, a student of human behavior. I just got, in my late 20s, I read every possible book, Anthony Robbins and Wayne Dyer and all of these great authors. And it really helped me shape my life. Hence, the name of this book, which is called Life Shaping, and it's got 10 chapters in it. But I really want it to be a little informal. There is Q&A at the end, but if you have a question as I go through, put up your hand, we'll answer it. So I have 3 boys, they're in their 20s. I see some students in their 20s. I said, Jordan, I want to be relevant today. What should I do? And he goes, well, you can't wear a tie. I always wear a tie. No tie. And 2, he goes, you got to drop the F-bomb early. So I want to tell you how freaking happy I am. We'll get that out of the way. So let me see if I can get this thing working. Am I good? All right. So here's my observation. Most people in life, no judgment, it's just an observation, live their life like a leaf on a stream. Wherever the stream goes, they go. And if they're happy, great. And if you're in that position, you can leave, because this won't be relevant to you. But most people want more, and they don't know how to get there. And that's the story of this book. From how do you shape a life from where you are to where you want to be? How do you shape a life from where you are to the dream life that you have in your head, but you don't know how to get there? So I'm a perfect example. I say, Kathy and I have this funny thing. I call myself AJ, Average Joe. I wasn't a good student. I was never a good athlete. I'm the average size, average height, average intelligence. See, I couldn't even get the word out. And then here I am living this extraordinary life right now. So I'm clearly the most lucky, fortunate person in the world. I have a beautiful wife right in front of me. I have 3 healthy kids. I am healthy. Our businesses are great. We live in a great community. Here I am with all of you at the Huizenga Business School today. Life is great. So how do you get from there to here? And I call it life shaping. So, by the way, a funny story. I do sales presentations for my company, and it's often with a PowerPoint like this. I hate having a pointer in my hand, so I always go like this, and then I can talk. So if you notice me doing that. So this diagram, I have to recognize my assistant, Hope, and her daughter, Haley's here today. I said, I need images for the front of every chapter. And so she came up with this one, and I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? A person that's not perfect yet, right? Like it's just kind of an imperfect, about to be shaped. So basically, this is anyone from in the prelim. The introduction to the book, it's 16 to 60, and I realize I may have missed some of you in the room. So it's 16 to whenever. And honestly, it doesn't matter where you are in your life. Why not decide where you want to be and shape it anyways? It really doesn't age. It's age agnostic. So why did I write this book? Because I needed clarity myself. I had all these ideas and they were just jumbled. And I thought, wow, if I could write this book, it would really clarify it, and it has. 2, I wanted to organize my thoughts. 3, I thought it would be of value to somebody. I'm hoping somebody leaves today and makes decisions in their life to make it better just from this conversation. So here's what we're going to do, because we have limited time and there's 10 chapters in the book. I'm going to go through the 10 chapters and basically the 5 biggest takeaways from each chapter. And I'm hoping by the end you're going to go, James, when will you finish? I want to buy the book. That's the intended outcome here. So the first chapter is called It's Not Your Fault. And isn't that a great image? Thank you, Hope. Maybe it is my fault. So, there we go. Who we are is either a product of nature or nurture, genetic or learned. Would we all agree? I've had 100 arguments. Is it 70-30, 50-50, 60-40? I don't care. It's part genetic and it's part learned. So the genetic part, there's not, and let's, for discussion purposes, let's say it's 50-50. You have no control over genetics. It is what it is. You're born with the wiring that you have. On the learned side, maybe you don't have so much as well. I'm just going to show you a little something here. This is your brain. All yours may look a little different than that, but if you look at this diagram, the brain when you're born is very immature, very open to adapt to its environment. By the way, that's not true of your brain today, so don't get too excited about it. So what happens when you're born? They grab you by the feet and they slap your butt. And, I can use my pointer, Hope. So what happens is, I can use my pointer. On one side of that wire is slap on butt, the other side hurts, cries, right? That's the first neural pathway after birth. It's called a synapse. So then what happens? You go through life a little bit, you put your hand on the stove, it hurts, new neural canal that says, hot stove, don't touch, hurts. Let me give you some other ones. If you're driving your car and all of a sudden you hear a siren behind you, what happens? You have a whole physiological change because you're going, oh, is that for me? So it's a wiring, it's a reaction. One more, current. How do you feel when you lose your cell phone, your smartphone, your iPhone, whatever you're carrying? It's like, oh my God, there's just this convulsion in your body. That happens to me anyways. So if you can imagine between 0 and 16, you've got all this wiring going, and what happens is there's actually something called a cortical map. You know, if I move my finger like this, it goes up through my nervous system and it hits a very specific point in my brain. And so everything you experience has a cortical map to your brain. Go back for a sec there. So the question is, who shapes who you are? I call them shapers because this is life shaping. Well, do you choose what country you're born in? No. Do you choose your parents? No. Do you choose what school you go to? No. Do you choose the church you go to? Probably not. Even your first sport is usually chosen by your parents. So that by the time you're 16 years old, have you really had much input into that brain wiring? I suggest to you, no. Therefore, it's not your fault. Chapter 1. And really, what is the product? And I'm sure some of you are sitting there, when I was 16, was I who I am today? And a lot of you are saying, yes, it's yourself, right? It's the whole concept of self. So, the good news is, chapter 2, oh, sorry. It is your fault. This is the greatest image. It says, this is all your fault street. So that's another pathway, a life-shaping pathway. So really, you can sit there and go, James, I went and listened to James Donnelly, it's learned and it's genetic, it's not my fault, I am who I am. Or you can make a decision. You can take responsibility and say, you know what, the status quo is unacceptable. If it's acceptable, great. You don't need to listen to the rest. But a lot of people say, no, I want more. I want my life to look differently. And what we've learned is that, in fact, the brain is way more malleable than we think it is. And they've done a whole bunch of studies on this. It's called neuroplasticity. There's a great book out there called Brain Plasticity. Let me give you a couple examples. London taxi drivers, they did a study. And they took 1,000 London taxi drivers and they analyzed their brain. And the part of your brain that's your internal GPS, your spatial orientation, that part of the brain had exploded in size in these London taxi drivers. So they go, oh, wow, is that ever neat? Maybe, in fact, the brain isn't so set. That's true also. You've heard of people who lose a limb and they have phantom, they think their limb's still there. The cortical map all their life had said my limb is there. The brain hasn't figured out it's not there. Eventually, by the way, it does figure out it's not there, and it changes, your brain changes. So if, in fact, your brain can change, then the whole wiring discussion that we started with is out the window. Now it's your responsibility to change. It is a choice. So, chapter 3, who do I want to be? This is not so easy. You know, Stephen Covey did the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Habit 2 said, begin with the end in mind. And if you don't know where you're going, how are you possibly going to get there? So this is an important time to figure out. The word I like to use is, when you get up in the morning, you live by intention or reaction. Do you have a plan or you don't have a plan? At my home, we've recently moved, but I had a big desk at my home in Weston, and it had glass on top. And I'm a real visualized guy. I visualized my future, where I wanted to be. And I had like a house in the mountains and trips and all of these things and experiences. And my, at that time, younger son comes along and he goes, you know what, Dad? You have everything, and I left it there for quite a long time. You have everything on this desk except a plane. I'm thinking, oh, I gotta get working on a plane. But that wasn't the point of the story. The story is, I visualized and it actually came into my life. It was unbelievable. So what I think you need to do is a couple things. One, visualize what you want. Secondly, here's what you do for the next month. This is take-home bag. Take out your iPhone, and every time you're having the absolute time of your life the next month, write down exactly what you're doing. And every time the next month you're going, I really don't like doing this, like sitting in a lecture at NSU, you write down, don't like this. And at the end of the month, you look at those lists and go, okay, this is what I like and this is what I don't like. And in the day-to-day, you don't pick it up. But if you actually track it for a month, it's amazing what you'll learn. So here's what, in my book, you will learn to do. You will go purpose, vision, mission, values, and all your goals. It will perfectly define where you want to go. And in fact, I did mine. So here's my values. By the way, I have a purpose of my life, which is to stretch, smile, live, and give. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a minute. And then I have a mission, but these are my values. So the most important thing I value in my life is health and energy. And you go, well, why, James? Like family, love, Kathy's here, shouldn't she be at the top of the list? We've worked this out. And my belief is that if you don't have health, you can't have everything else on this list. And when you go through this list, you're literally saying, what's more important, contribution or fun, contribution or growth? So these are in the exact order. And there's an exercise that you'll do when you read my book, and it'll help you put this in place. It is so defines what the life you want, and so now we know where we want to go. The next step is, who am I now? So you have to do, I call it do an inventory. It's inventory time. There we go. What is the current wiring? I've got all this genetics, I've got all this wiring I've learned. I may have even changed some wiring in my adult life, but you've got to figure out who you are. And there's a whole bunch of tools. Have you heard of Myers-Briggs? You've got, we use a predictive index. You have all these different tools to say, what is my wiring right now? In fact, our company's called the Casa Group. We have about 900 employees. We hire maybe 25 employees a month. Nobody comes through the door without doing a PI, a predictive index. So to help you, I will walk you through my PI. This is my wiring. Don't be scared. So all those numbers and graphs mean nothing to you, but let me tell you what it says. The first line on the first graph is way over to the right. That's a measure of my assertiveness. This is the middle line here. Sorry, there's a little star. I didn't know I was going to have to do 2 monitors. There's a star here. See how my assertiveness is way over to the right? That means I'm really assertive. You may not have noticed that about me. The second measure is introversion, extroversion. Now you may think because I'm at the front of the room, I'm an extrovert. I'm actually a big-time introvert. It's called 2 sigma. My heaven, my love instead of my loathe is all by myself up in the mountains. That's it. So that's who I am. And the third one is your patience. If you're left, not very patient. I'm not a very patient guy. Kathy, would you? Yeah. And then the fourth one is attention to detail. I have a very high attention to detail. So that is who I am. Now, this is really important because we're going to talk about where you get your energy from in a minute. For me to be unassertive, really hard to do. For me to be an extrovert, I can do it as I am right now, but it takes an incredible amount of your personal energy. So you may want to shape your life to honor your current wiring, choose some of the things you're going to rewire, and then manage your energy appropriately. One other thing about who we are right now, and that is today we have to live a transparent life. There is Instagram and Snapchat. Aren't you impressed I know these things too? If you're in the city of London, there's a camera on you 100% of the time. You can't go anywhere in London without a camera on you. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, where you're doing it. This is being videoed. It's going to be on YouTube. So you have to live now where you used to be, like some of our politicians have 2 lives. You have to live a transparent life. And so it's good to know who you are, and it really helps that you do that transparently. And what we land up with is our identity. Very, very powerful tool. It affects all your decision making. So, it's not your fault, it is your fault. This is where I want to go, this is who I am. The next 6 chapters of the book are how do I get from A to B. So this is the real, if you weren't excited till now you're going to be excited. Energy. Is this not, is that a great photo? Oh, thank you. I looked at this photo and it just said energy to me. So I believe that you cannot get from A to B, you cannot shape a life of your dreams without energy. It's the kind of foundational point. So, prerequisite. Have you ever heard of the health triangle? The health triangle says you have 3 types of health. You have physical health, you have social health, how we interact, and you've got mental health. And these are all necessary, but I want to focus in this chapter on your physical health. And these are in the order that I think that you have to do them. So sleep. If you don't have sleep, you can't have energy to do all the rest. If you have a short night's sleep or a late night out, do you feel like going to the gym that morning? No. So I need 8 hours of sleep. If I don't get 8 hours sleep, grouchy, not good. So the first thing you have to do is get your sleep. The second thing is diet. You have to eat well. And all I'm going to tell you is this. I don't know whether you're vegetarian or what your eating habits are. Eat close to the source. If vegetables, fruits, if it's meat, eat as close to the, not processed. 2, don't eat anything out of a box. 3, don't eat anything processed. I know that's not completely achievable, but I'm telling you right now, it will change your energy if you eat close to the source of the food. The third one is exercise. You have to exercise. We weren't built to sit in chairs all day. My job, I sit at a chair, I sit at a computer. If I didn't exercise, I think I would be lived permanently. So I was at the gym at 6:30 this morning. And you have to do it. You have to get the discipline. And we're going to talk about scheduling and discipline in a minute. But here's what I have to tell you about exercise, because I see a lot of people exercising incorrectly. It has to be intense. And you have to lift weights or do some resistance. Especially as we get older. Your chemistry of your body changes, your bones break down, but start young. Create the habit young. I'm telling you, you have to exercise regularly, intensely, and it has to be with some resistance. I don't care whether it's push-ups and sit-ups, if it's your body weight. If you don't do those 3 things, I think you're going to be in trouble. And by the way, put up your hand if you work out, you feel great out. Or you feel terrible going, but when you come out, you feel great. Emotion is fueled by motion. If you do it, you are going to come out of that workout feeling unbelievable. The 4th is meditation, and I have to make a confession here. I'm terrible at this. But you have to calm your mind. Our world is so electronic. Distractions, the beeping, and the emails, and the kids, and the everything. So you have to find the time to calm your mind. And it's something, honestly, I'm not very good at. I try. I know how to meditate. I've taken meditation courses. But this is one of those things, I guess I'm a bit of a hypocrite. Meditate. I don't, but you should. And the final one is breathe. You know how we breathe when we're intense? You know, before I come up on stage, because I'm an introvert, my breathing's probably not very good. You want to breathe deeply. Someone told me recently, use 7-11. 7 seconds breathing in, 11. It just changes, it calms you, it gives you energy. So before I leave energy, this is purposely the first step to life shaping in my book. But let me leave you with one more thing. You know, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, it was all about time management. The 2-minute manager, time management, time management, time management. What I've learned is I'm way better if I manage my energy. Right? There's times in the day where you have great energy. Well, you should be doing the thing that you need to do at that time. I think it's way more powerful than time management is. All right. We good? Dean Jones said you got 45 minutes and then you started 15 minutes late. So. The next chapter is about people and relationships. There's just one problem with the world. There's 7 billion other of us on it. It would be great if it was just us. We could do what we want. We wouldn't have anyone bugging us. But it's not the way they work, and it's not the way it should work. There's this symbiosis. You can't have this desk if someone didn't build it. You can't have this thought exchange if there aren't other people. So relationships is so important to this whole life-shaping idea. And I got one simple message. Be nice. Smile. I just don't understand why people don't smile and be nice. There's no downside, there's only upside. By the way, what's great about being nice is when you're not, people listen. I'm a really nice guy, but when I'm angry at work, it goes right through our office. So contrast, right? It's like hot and cold. So I say be nice. And not everyone is nice. Sometimes you're with grouchy people, right? Sometimes it's just their wiring. We now know about wiring. Always ask, what's their intent? Do they really intend to offend me or cause me any harm? The other thing I want to talk about here is self-interest. We all have self-interest. And the example I use is Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa is was the nicest person in the world. All she did was give, 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 give. So she's selfless. She can't have self-interest. God bless her. In fact, there was something inside she was satisfying, right? Every day that she went out and helped another person that needed it, it was a self-satisfaction. So we all have self-interest. You want to figure out how to get what you want in your life-shaping path? Figure out what everyone else's self-interest is. The more people you help get what they want, you will get what you want. And it's really incredible. Family and partner, this has got to work. If you have friction in the family and the partner, you can't get out of the house, right? It's not good. Kathy and I, for 20 years now, we've been together 37 years, but for the last 20 years, we go through this exercise every year between Christmas and New Year's. We literally get together alone, usually a nice glass of wine, quiet, fire, very romantic, and we bring up, and Kathy's going, oh, how nice is this? And then I bring out 2 pads and 2 pens. Very romantic guy I am. And we write down all of our values. You just saw mine. Kathy writes hers, I write mine. Then we rank them like I just ranked, and then you bring them together. So let's say my highest value was adventure and Kathy's was security. Do you think we have a problem? It's a big problem. So my suggestion to you, and this is in the book, so you don't have to write it down. If your values are off by 2, you have a problem. As long as they're within 2, that's all right. And then we finish that exercise by writing down everything we want to achieve in our life. By the way, obviously, after all these years, our values are pretty aligned, but a lot of people in the room may not be in mature relationships. So what you do is you write down all of your goals, you put time frames on them, you extract your 1-year goals, and you come back to the room with each other and we say, how do we support each other's goals for the year? I'm telling you, I call it a relationship calibration. If you don't do it, you got to do it. It'll change the way you work together. So that's people and relationships. Oh, I want to mention technology. Technology is a double-edged sword. You know, I have 3 boys all over the country right now. I don't even know where they are, but they text me all the time, so I'm good. As long as they're texting, they're in good shape, I'm good, I'm happy. So that's the good thing of technology. The bad thing is, have you ever gotten in an elevator? Because you don't want to talk to each other, that would be terrible. I was in LA last year, and I got off the plane at LAX, and you have to take one of those buses to get your rental car. And the buses have 2 benches down each side like this, and there were maybe 6 on one side and 6 on the other. And I'm like this, and I look down, there were 12 men all like this. It absolutely has taken away so much of the intimacy of coexisting on this planet. So yes, it's good we can stay connected. I think it may have gone too far. So, Next chapter is called Think. Anyone recognize this, this statue? Paris, thinker. We don't think anymore. No, oh, you can't see that yet. So great thinkers of history, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Descartes, Newton. What do they all have in common? They had nothing else to do but think. They're the greatest philosophers. I challenge anyone in this room, how many has stopped and put everything else aside for 1 hour and just think in the last month? Put up your hand. It blew my story. You have to take the time, and what I love about some of these quotes, look at this is Thomas Edison. 5% of the people think, 10% of people think they think. That was you guys. And 85% would rather die than think. Is that not true? A couple more I want you to read. This is Henry Ford. Thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably the reason few engage in it. And then the last one, I have no idea who Lloyd Alexander is. Does anybody know? Anyways, I had to take this quote. Thinking is a bit uncomfortable, but you'll get used to it as a matter of time and practice. So, you know, I talked about rewiring. Thinking is part of that. By the way, one of the ways I think are the best to rewire is to create a habit. And so habits are hard. We're going to talk about them in a minute. But if you create the habit of thinking, it will change your life. It will give you an intuition. I think I passed that slide. You know, people in my firm say, James, how do you know? You have such intuition. You always seem to just know. And I think it's because I think. And so it'll give you an unbelievable intuition if you take this time and invest in yourself. How are we doing, Hope? But you do need to schedule it. And Outlook or whatever software you use is so good. You can put it in there, it pops up, and oh crap, yes, I have to think now. So, the other thing I do is I journal. I have journaled since 1986. If you ever want to get really bored, come over to my house. I started in 1986. My kids go, why do you do this? The truth is, when you think and you write it down, A, it helps you remember it more. B, if you ever need to go back, it's there. Journaling is one of the most fun things you can do in your life. We now go back through the past year. Every year I do all the work in the house. I have to write the journal, but it's basically our shared journal. And we look back, you know what they say, that you grossly overestimate what you can do in a short period of time and underestimate in a long time? You start journaling and look at a year, it'll be unbelievable. So, and distraction, you have to have a think place, right? You got to get one in your house. All right, another great image here. The next chapter is called Growth. All right, so now we have to keep going. We have to rewire our brain. How are we going to do it? Well, the starting point for this is you have to be humble. If you don't have humility, you're going to go, I don't need to change. So you cannot do what I'm about to tell you if you don't have some humility in your life. And I'm going to tell you, everything I plan to do from at 12 years old, you saw I got a lawnmower. At 13, I got a snowblower. At 16, I was a McDonald's manager. At 24, I was a CPA. At 25, I was an entrepreneur. And by 30, I was a millionaire. You can't touch everything I did was gold. And I had no humility. Humility came very shortly after that. I lost everything. And that is, what a gift, right? So if you get some setbacks in your life, it will make you humble, and it's the starting point for growth. So I call it sharpen the saw. You need to sharpen the saw. You need to make yourself better, or you can't get from here to there. Let me give you an example. When I was 45 years old, I was still typing like this. Some of the older people in the room, I say, yeah, oh, what's wrong with that? And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. These computer things aren't going away. I got to learn how to type. So I bought Mavis Beacon. Had anyone heard of Mavis Beacon? I did Mavis Beacon for 30 freaking days. There's the F word again. And I couldn't believe it. I literally rewired my brain, and now I can type like the wind. I do all Hope's typing now. In our firm, our company grows 15% a year. It's fantastic. My team is unbelievable. If we have somebody we don't think is growing fast, we have the growth chart. You do not want to see the growth chart at Castle. The growth chart shows Castle's growth and your growth. Now, if you take those two vectors and you go out over time, they get farther apart, don't they? So that's a message from Castle management to team member, you better sharpen the saw or you're going to get left behind. And I think that's true of our lives as well. Unfortunately, we generally need a fulcrum for change. You need something that's going to trigger it. Maybe for some of you today, you're going to go, I went to this lecture today, and when I woke up, it sounded pretty good. And I'm going to change. Unfortunately, for a lot of us, it's crisis, right? It's tragedy. It's something that happens in our life. But whatever that fulcrum is, it just turns a switch and you go, okay, I'm going to sharpen the saw. You have to be curious. I read and I read and I read. I still read. I still come home from the movies and Google to find out everything about the actors in the story. Kathy, if you ask me any questions, she goes, oh no, I didn't ask you. I said, why? Because you're going to run to your iPad. And I do. So I started reading at a very young age, and I have a reading list that, by the way, the last slide is my email address. Anything you want more information on, you just email me, I'll send you. But some of the books that were unbelievable were Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, 1937. You're going, hey, this is Izinga Business School in 2014. I'm not reading a 1937 book. Read the book. Truth is truth, right? And normally it's just a discovery of. All of physics always existed, it just wasn't discovered. It's the same true about human behavior and how things work. And so go read that book, it's fantastic. By the way, Awaken the Giant by Anthony Robbins. You guys have heard of Tony Robbins, this guy's amazing. My argument is to change your wiring, you have to create new habits and take time to do it. Robbins will bring up someone who's afraid of a snake, do something to them, and then put a snake around the neck. I can't do that, but it's a great book. So, has anyone read the book Flow? I cannot pronounce the author's name, but there we go. Flow is probably the best book you'll ever read. They took all these people and they put little pagers on them, and it would go off at intervals. And every time it went off, you had to write down, what are you doing? How do you feel? Are you happy? Are you not happy? And then they synthesized like a very, very large sample. And what they found were people were absolutely happiest when they were in flow, hence the name of the book. Flow was totally engaged in something that they were absorbed and enjoying. And it often worked, by the way. They were just in that, or sport. And so another book I would highly recommend. And then a more recent book, if you haven't read The Happiness Advantage by Sean Acor, you gotta go read it. It's unbelievable. And if you ever get to see his video, it's hilarious to watch. So you just have to keep reading. You have to be curious. You have to stretch. This is what I think. Every day you got to get up. How can you grow if you don't get stretch? It's like an elastic. So how do you grow? Get uncomfortable every day. Come to the Huizenga Business School, get up in front of a bunch of people and talk about your book. You have to stretch. And stretching I define as getting uncomfortable even a little bit every day. Listen. 2 ears, 1 mouth, use accordingly. That's all I have to say about that. You have to listen. The last thing is, whatever you want to do, this is your A, this is your B, this is your life-shaping path, someone's already done it. So what do? We go and try and recreate it all ourselves. Someone's already done it. You want to model other people who have done it before. My goal is always to be the dumbest person in the room. It looks like I've achieved it today. But when I was inducted into the Huizenga Business School Hall of Fame, I'm like, this is really cool. I've met my goal of being the dumbest person in the room. But the message there is, why would you want to be around people who are less able than you? Get around people that are more able than you, and they will help you on your life-shaping path. All right, I'm almost done, I promise. So decide. People don't make decisions. How can you shape a life if you don't make decisions? Well, the reason is they're afraid. But if you take nothing else from this lecture today, it's this. The quality of your life will equal exactly the quality of the decisions you make. Me deciding to marry Kathy at 20, oh, I didn't decide, she decided. So. It was a good decision of Kathy's. My decision to be a CPA, my decision to be an entrepreneur, my decision to move my whole family from Canada to Florida in 1996. Life-shaping decisions, right? But we don't make them because we're confused and we're afraid. So I have the solution for you today. The success cycle. Don't be afraid to make decisions. Here's the way it works. You make the decision, you have a plan. You implement it. It doesn't work. You evaluate it. It's okay. You adjust and you redo it. This never stops. This is what life shaping is all about. Do not be afraid to make a decision. It's okay if it's the wrong decision. It's often going to be the wrong decision, but it will put you closer to where you want to be. And there's a whole section of this in the book that I think I'm going quickly, but will drive this home and it'll help you make decisions. So, And the result of this is your life-shaping plan, which you will be the product of, if you go to the last page of this book, the last part will be what your plan is to change your life. It gives you unbelievable clarity to have decisions, and then you have to get decision criteria. And what I find my best decision criteria were all those values. I'm going to go do this. How's it going to affect my family, my health, my family, my love life, my security and whatnot. It also has to be in alignment with everything else in your world. These decisions have to be aligned with who you are. I talk about standards in decision making. When we decided how are we going to be the best customer service in our industry, we said, who is the best? What's the highest standard? Our answer was Ritz-Carlton. We went to the Ritz-Carlton school, and their standard of service is unbelievable. So do you think Motel 6, I hope no one's from there, has the same standard? It's not. It's this standard. Part of the decision-making process is to set a standard in your life that you will absolutely not accept going below that. And then the final thing, and this happens at the Castle Group. Once a year we go away and we plan next year. We've already been away in September for 2015. And one of the things we decided is the most important thing in our firm the next year is training. And then we went ahead and went back, and then we did our budget for the year. And I'm sitting there looking, there's our plan and there's our budget. And we hadn't allocated resources consistent with the strategy. By the way, we fixed it. But isn't that true of our own life? Here's the plan, and then you're not allocating your time, your energy, your money to that. So that's the last step of the decision-making process. All right, bringing it home. Last chapter is act, right? So great, you know that you started with fixed wiring, you know you can now change your wiring, you know where you're going, you know where you started, you've got the energy and the people and the decision making it down. Now you have to act. And I'll go back to my saying you have to start with intention every day. And you got to be disciplined and you got to schedule. And this is what people don't do. Sunday night is a great time. It takes 20 minutes. You pull out the computer, you bang it in there, you put your workouts, you do your meditation, all of the things that we talked about, and you put it in there. And there's a great book out there called Eat the Frog. Terrible name. It's by Brian Tracy, a Canadian author. And Eat the Frog is a very distasteful thing to do, apparently. I've never eaten one. But the concept of the book is every day there's something in that day that's the worst thing you want to do. You do not want to do whatever that is. And the whole idea is normally your energy is at the highest in the morning. Go do it, and the rest of your day is beautiful. You do nothing else that day. You've got your frog eaten. The other thing is deadlines. By the way, I was kind of getting behind on the writing of my book. And then Jade said, well, you have to be prepared for October, what's today, 16? So guess what, deadline. Have you ever planned a vacation and figured out what you did in the 48 hours before that time to get it done? It's unbelievable. Deadlines are very powerful. But the biggest one is habits. So what do we do between Christmas and New Year's? We set our New Year's resolutions. January 1, we're going to do this and this and this and this. And put up your hand if they're usually all done by January 3rd, right? Here's what you have to do. Habits take time to get ingrained, to rewire your brain. You take one habit on January 1, and for that month, it's all you do. Forget about all your other ones. On February 1, you're allowed to start your second New Year's resolution because, in fact, 30 days, it does take 60 days to get a habit, but 30 days you're allowed to start your second one. In 12 months, you'll get the 12 done. If you go with the old strategy, you weren't going to get any of them done. You're literally rewiring your brain by putting these habits into place. You want, in the Happiness Advantage book, Sean Acor, he talks something about activation energy. You want to make it really easy to do the desired outcome. Example, let's say I hate running. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. I put my shoes and my shorts and my shirt right below my bed. So when I get out, what's the easiest thing for me to do? Put my shoes, shorts, and go running. So you want to create a path that your habits, it's the easiest thing to do. Willpower. There's a great book by Roy Baumstein called Willpower. And what his study says, it's a muscle. It fatigues. You only have limited willpower. You have to use it judiciously. Don't think you could do all these things at one time. Know that you only have this much willpower. Finally, you have to have goals and you have to have rewards. So I'm a goal machine. Every year I make my goals, I measure them often, our company does it, and we attach rewards. attach your personal rewards. If it's, I want to lose 10 pounds, have a Sunday at the end of losing 10 pounds. Reward yourself. Make it a positive thing to achieve your goal. So, this is where we started. 45 minutes ago. Right on time, sir. And this is where we end. By the way, these are 2 pieces of art. Kathy and I are building a new home, and we started buying art. And she bought these 2 beautiful statues of beautiful bodies. And Hope had got me this kind of rough body to start the life-shaping presentation, and then I had my son take these pictures, and I thought, isn't that a metaphor from this picture to that picture is what life-shaping is all about. So, get behind here. In conclusion, what I ask is that you be nice, you be healthy, you be humble, you be connected, you be curious, you be decisive, you be true, and you take risks. Let me tell you how I do that in my life. I started the presentation, I told you that I have a purpose in my life, and I've got a physical and an oral way of saying it. In my life, I stretch. My purpose in my life is to stretch, physical. I do this, smile, be nice, live, be in the moment, and give. So what does that mean to me? Stretch. And so then every day I do this, so it kind of locks in my life shaping, and you can pick up whatever yours looks like. But stretch, as soon as I do that, I go, okay, what am I going to do to get uncomfortable today? Smile. I don't know that, I got the military look, the short hair, usually the tie on. I'm not the friendliest looking guy, but I smile. And as soon as you smile at somebody, they smile back at you, right? Live is called being in the moment. Be here, be aware, be right now, because one of the problems with life shaping is thinking, oh, I gotta. No, you gotta enjoy right now. And so that centers me. And the final one I have is give. And Kathy and I have everything we need in our life for the rest of our life. The rest of our life is about giving. And my hope and my gift to you is when the book comes out, that you read it and maybe shape your own life. So thank you very much.
Questions?
So, first of all, there's my name and my email if you have any questions. Secondly, as soon as one person asks a question, a second person will. So, take risk and ask the first question. Greg?
I don't think I need the mic.
No, you don't. Right.
I want to go back to the portion that you were talking about where you're dealing with spouse or partner. Is there a danger in that process?
There's a lot of danger.
Of adversely affecting the values of the other person, and how do you avoid that? Does the person comply to yours, or do you comprise, or do you comply with theirs, or do you compromise? I see some real concerns and dangers in that area.
Great question. Everybody hear it? Yes. So the potential danger of value alignment or not. So my answer, Ray, is this. One, if your values are way out of alignment, you probably shouldn't be together. You're going to struggle. Two, the exercise, and if you're married, here's my physical description of marriage. You marry, you go like this, right? You're totally aligned, you're in love, everything's perfect. One person grows like this. Never in a relationship do 2 people grow at the same pace. If this person doesn't adjust, or this one down, this is what happens. So why I call this calibration is, let's get back together, or like this. 1, 2, or 3 is, the whole purpose of the exercise is, what is our strategy to align those? What can we do? Honey, I know you like adventure. You go skiing in the mountains on the back hills 1 week a year with your buddies. I'll stay home. So I satisfy my adventure need. Kathy satisfies her security need. So I think, Ray, first of all, if they're too far apart, it's a problem. I mean, I don't, they may be irreconcilable, and that's probably why half the people don't stay together. But 2, if they aren't that far apart, the whole act of calibrating results in a strategy that you can coexist with those different values. But thank you, Fred. Yes, sir?
When you chart your company's growth and your employees' growth, what parameters do you use to chart your employees' growth?
That's a good question. How do we chart our employees' growth at the Castle Group? So if you join Castle, we have a portal, it's called My Castle, and inside of that portal is everything about Castle. And after 90 days you start in the firm, you get a Castle career plan. And that is the plan that's that person's journey through their career at Castle. We've just introduced last year Castle University online. So as soon as you've defined your Castle career plan, a curriculum is attached, you go online and you do your courses that match that curriculum. At the end of the year, it's review time, and you say you want to go from assistant manager to manager. You have the curriculum, there's 10 courses, they're all online, they're self-serve, and you've only done 8. Well, but you still want to be promoted to property manager. Well, you haven't put the growth chart in. It isn't a perfect science, and this is a new system we've implemented. But the truth is, you really know, don't you, if an employee isn't keeping up. But we do have some metrics now in our firm. I saw another hand.
You have about 1,000 employees in Castle Group, I just heard.
Yes?
So how do you track when there's dissatisfaction with the company? How do you track it? You know, obviously you have to delegate a lot of work to run a company of that size. How can you track it so that you have personal knowledge that there's deficiencies in your company?
That's great. How do we track in a 1,000-person firm each individual and their happiness? Well, first of all, it's hard. Second of all, it's our problem right now. We're about to go from what we call a medium-sized company. We're starting to be a larger company. How do you scale and keep the intimacy that we have in our company? How do you manage your culture in that environment? First of all, we put a lot of effort. You saw it in the video, the introduction. We have a constitution. We train it. We live it. And so everyone knows what's expected of them. 2, we have, by the way, Castle is, in 14, was named one of the best places to work in South Florida. So it's something we've addressed proactively. But we survey our employees all the time. And so I could tell you exactly, and we track it over time to see if there's any indication we're missing something. And then we have just a real good dialogue, a very good culture of back and forth. Your question, though, is one that causes me some concern in that, how do I do that at 2,000 and 3,000 and 4,000 employees? I don't know that I have the answer, but create a great culture and create a great feedback mechanism, I think, is the best way to answer that. Mark?
Quick question. And a lot of times in a lot of these discussions and books, and a lot of great books you mentioned, a lot of people don't address the issue of their belief in fate or destiny. Where do you enter into that?
Yeah, it's a good question. How does fate and destiny fit into this? I believe there is a destiny for each of us and a fate for each of us, but we don't know completely what that is. So we have 2 choices. We just let destiny take us on a leaf, like a leaf on a stream, or we define our life and at least live our life consciously. And that may not get where we want because of fate and destiny, but I don't think you can hold yourself back because that's out there.
That's the title of your book.
Yeah. Thank you. Beautiful cue question.
2 questions, James. One, quickly, when is your book going to be available? And secondly, as your contemporary, or almost contemporary, your philosophy makes total sense to me. But we have kids about the same age. They grew up in a totally different world where everything's like this, and this. How does that work for them? How do we convey that to them?
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for asking me about the deadline for my book. I was trying to skate by without that, but I would suggest sometime next year. How's that for a loose deadline? The second thing is our kids, and I must have skipped it over in my notes. There's a concept, and for the young people in the room, you may or may not have had what's called a helicopter parent. They kind of go like this over you. Haley, you're one of those. And what do? They protect you from everything. Life is perfect. Everything's handed to you. Kids need 2 things. They need to feel successful, which helicopter kids do provide, helicopter parents, and they need friends. And even helicopter parents allow their kids to have friends. but what they don't allow them is to have real life experiences, and that's where we fail. By the way, guilty number one. 18 years old, all of a sudden we boot them out to Tallahassee, and they're totally unprepared. So and I see some of the young kids going, yeah, it was fun. So my suggestion, if there's parents in the room, you have to let these kids go out that door. In my vintage, Saturday morning, there were no cell phones. It's Saturday morning, you went out the door. My parents had no idea, thank God, what I was doing until I came home that night. But I have to implore, and I didn't do it, so I'm being a hypocrite here. You gotta let these kids take risks.
With the possibility, I'm sorry. With the possibility, if you don't mind sharing, would you tell us basically, just from someone growing a company, the core values of your company?
Mm-hmm. So, number one is integrity. Number two is tolerance. Number three is team. Number four is contribution. Number five is growth. Number six is balance. Number seven is innovation. And number eight is fun. I've got a couple people on my team. Funnily enough, we have an incredible orientation that's done by my partner, Craig Vaughn. And we use memory pegs. So everyone, you could go to most employees in my company and they could tell you those eight because we have these memory pegs. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have any key employees? Do you have any key employees in your company? And what do you do to retain those employees for the success of your company?
Do I have any key employees and how do I retain them? My two partners are my brother and my childhood friend. Those are the two key. No, so yes, my younger brother is our COO, and the gentleman, Craig Vaughn, who I went to kindergarten with, is the third partner. But in addition to that, we have 15 directors. And the thing that we do, obviously we pay competitively. We have a great work environment, but more than anything else, and I think most germane to your question is, we have them make the decisions. Literally, when we go to our shareholders meeting, there's a big directors meeting. What should the board of directors of this company do? So we empower them to make the decisions because someday we won't be there.
I have a question about, I guess, your harmony. You talk about scheduling and the importance of that and all the various things that are healthy for you, mind, body, and productivity to accomplish in a day. I have a 5-month-old at home, and I found that prior to caring for him, I was able to do all of the things on that list, and now it's a lot different. So how do you be available and still perform at your best at work and at home and with your child? I mean, you've had 3 children, so how did you guys do it?
I married Kathy.
You have to prioritize.
No, honestly, I'm not sure I'm the best answer because Kathy stayed home with our kids and did an incredible job. But honestly, because I kind of described the perfect world, didn't I? You get up, you work out, you do this, but what you have to do is when you sit down Sunday night, you know that there's an hour every morning that's absolutely dedicated to getting your 5-month where they need to be. So I think it's, how do you allocate the duties? Do I have relatives? Do I have help? You just have to reschedule it. I don't feel I'm satisfactorily answering your question because I've never been in it, but I believe there is a schedule that may not be able to do all of these things. By the way, I did them in order, didn't I? Sleep is number one, diet, exercise. So you may have to sacrifice some of the lower ones, meditation and breathing. That's not part of it.
Hi.
Hi.
As you were speaking, I looked down at your wife quite often. She had this big smile on her face. So you brought a lot of love in the room with you when you came, and you have created some since you've been here. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Mills. I'm a student at Nova. I wanted to ask you, well, you sound like you believe in the power of manifestation, manifesting your destiny. And I wanted to know, what advice could you give the students for the students that believe in manifesting their destiny, but they are paralyzed by fear of taking that next step to make their dreams and their visions become reality?
Yeah, that's a good one. You know what's great about being young at least this was my experience, is I had nothing to lose. Kathy and I had nothing. If our businesses failed, I'd be back to nothing. In fact, I did a couple times. It's not fun. So the first thing is, I think we probably put more weight on failure than it deserves. If you haven't failed, you haven't learned. So I would suggest to you that failure is not a bad thing, and take the risk. 2, if you go back to the success cycle, try it, fail, learn, adjust, re-go. So those are the 2 things. Failing is not going to be a problem, especially young. If you're going to fail, fail young. Failing at my age is not a good thing. Failing at your age is okay. It's okay. And then don't forget that success cycle, especially for the younger people in the room. It will absolutely, it forces you, it's a continual process to moving towards your manifest destiny.
You talked at the beginning of the relationship calibration and how the 2 of you, Ray, asked about it. Can you use that same, or do you use that same kind of approach within your business partnerships, or can people use that same kind of approach within, executive leaders at the same level? Because sometimes their intentions go in different directions too, and do you incorporate anything like that in business?
Yeah, it's a good question. Not specifically, but I am so blessed to have 2 partners for 25 years, and they happen to be almost family and family. But we run our company like a public company. I mean, it is quarterly reporting, everything's getting measured, there's no BS. If the 5 dysfunctions of a team, if you've ever read that book, we have all of them. But when we go away, the first thing we do is clear the deck. What is on your mind? Get it out right now and get the emotions out so that we can get down to business. And honestly, it's almost harder, I think, when they are people you love and know, my partners. But I think the other thing you have to recognize is we have to make it work. Employee-employer don't have to make it work. Partner-partner, they do have to make it work, so I think that exercise is important. But employee-employer, each of us brings a different thing. That's what makes companies great. We all bring something different. You want a broad scope of values in your company, and talents and all of those things. Sir?
Good morning. I'm a professor here. I teach finance, and I say if you want to enjoy or understand how to lose, go to the casino. You'll see how to lose $20.
There you go. Good.
Then afterwards, you calculate your risk and figure out the best way. But my question to you, we have 7 billion people on Earth. Unfortunately, many of them are very poor. How would you link what you're doing with the humility and everything to try to alleviate the poverty? My passion in life is to try to make the world a better place through education. I think education empowers, helps poor people to get a little further in life. So how do you see how this book could help with that?
It's an interesting question. First of all, it's a big part of the rest of our life is how we can help people. 2, if you go back to the premise of this book, who we are is defined by our genetics and effectively our environment, right? Mm-hmm. So you look at what's going on in the Mideast and these kids that are coming up, it's not the kids' fault. They were born, they know nothing else than the evil that their parents and their environment was. So I think we have to get to the poor youth of the world and give them an environment and inputs that give them a wiring that's effective going forward, and we're not getting them right now. I mean, like the Gates, by the way, America is the best in the world, right? We give more money than anyone else by a huge margin, and there's so many people that are doing well. And by the way, it's way better in private foundation than the government doing it. The government will screw it up for sure, but if we can get more private giving dealing with this, but your question is, how does it relate to life shaping? We got to get the wiring right, and these kids or even in America, in poor America, it's a cycle, isn't it? Right. They go up, they come into a poor environment, that's what they know, and they repeat it. So it goes back to my whole premise that we got to get the wiring right.
Thank you.
As a veteran myself, I'm always concerned of how the companies are addressing the transition that veterans are facing, and what do you have in place in your company?
First of all, thank you for your service. We are so proud to be partners of Mission United. The United Way in Broward County has done an unbelievable job, and they put this program together. and we interview veterans every month, and we've hired several. What we don't do is hire them just because they're veterans, but we give everyone an opportunity. They obviously will get a preference. But the answer to your question is, if anyone here owns a business and you're not part of Mission United, become part of Mission United. These are great people, you know, values unbelievable work ethic. They've seen stuff that we don't ever, they're not afraid of anything. So I think it's a great program and we participate in it. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for being involved with NOVA. Thank you for doing this lecture. Thank you for bringing other leaders like yourself over to NOVA. I think it helps the whole community, and I'm just so happy to have heard your lecture today.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah.
And I might buy that book.
I better finish it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well,
one more. Yeah, you spoke about the few startups that your company invested in. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah. The first one is a software company. And so we're in the property management business. We manage buildings and communities. And if you walk into a high-rise condominium, the first thing you see is some kind of access control. That's operated by our software. Then you walk in and you'll see a front desk with some concierge behind it. And they say, you know, welcome Kathy to ABC building. How can I help you? I'm here to see someone, and they'll look it up in our software. Or the key should be left for me while I'm getting to use their unit, or a package has arrived. That's some of the customer facing. And then all of our buildings are going to be barcoded. So you come to any operating system and you scan it, and automatically on your iPad is the warranty, the history, the manufacturer, the last service date. If it's an incident, it automatically feeds it to the management office as an action item. So it's building intelligence software. It's the one that I'm most involved with, and we're the majority owner. The second one you may know, it's over the counter. It's called RealBiz. EasyFlix is a real estate in an iPhone. So the real estate agents, they take they install the software, and they go into a unit, and they can do the video and the pictures and the audio over it. Click upload to MLS. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's transforming how real estate agents work. And the third one is under stealth, and I'm in a non-disclosure act, but we're coming out of stealth on October 31. And all I can tell you is it's basically a real change or disruptive technology in finance world, fintech. But ask me on November 1, I'll be able to tell you. And the last one is an elevator maintenance company. So very, very related to, so I'm going to try and get the contract to do all of NSU's elevators. Thank you very much.
This was just absolutely amazing. And if I could describe your book and your work in your life as an entrepreneur, if you ever want to hear about the courage of being an entrepreneur, the courage to undertake, James Donnelly is that, I mean, guys, I'm just overtaken for words. I can't thank you enough. On behalf of all of us, this has been great. I would like to give a shout out and to recognize those of us in this room who are my colleagues who are dedicated to the success of all of our students and NSU, my faculty colleagues. Please stand to be recognized. And we have a gift for you.
A degree. That's so generous of you.
George, you'd like to go? And I'm going to take personal liberty and with my boss here on Boss's Day and to declare this day at NSU, James Donnelly and the Council Group Day. With that being said, thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.